Before the season, the Ferrari car known as the F175 had a lot of positive feedback, but it has recently struggled to compete with its counterparts. The tyres on the red car wear quickly, which is the cause of the recent poor performance. Matteo Binotto was left to lament Ferrari's racing performance at the Italian Grand Prix when Automotor und Sport published a harsh indictment entitled "Ferrari can't win anymore, the F175 eats its tyres." Charles Leclerc qualified first for Sunday's 53-lap Monza race, making the Monegasque driver P1 for the 8th time this season, but he was unable to keep up with Max Verstappen's pace. Ferrari was aware of this and decided to take a chance by making an early pit stop when the virtual safety car was deployed on lap 12. This put Leclerc on a two-stop strategy. However, he was unable to overtake Verstappen even with the brand new set of soft tyres he put on his second stop. He was 16 seconds off the lead when the safety car was deployed, putting a halt to the day's racing. Because the Red Bull RB18 was moving so quickly, team manager Binotto acknowledged that Ferrari had nothing to lose by taking a chance on Leclerc's plan.
Today the car was not behaving well. I think that's the point. That's the first time this season. So the first time it's not working as we were hoping for. We try to understand the reason of.
According to Michael Schmidt of automaker und Sport, the F1 Rapid 75's tyre degradation is Ferrari's biggest issue with their race performance. Ferrari acknowledged their tyre degradation issues at the Belgian Grand Prix. After the Belgian Grand Prix, Matteo Binotto stated, "Spa-Francorchamps is a lengthy track that emphasizes the difficulties and strengths. We are not strong enough in managing tyre wear." In reality, the F175 fell short of expectations on all three Pirelli compounds. Overall, Ferrari anticipated a challenging weekend, or at the very least, a faster Red Bull at Spa, given the characteristics of the track, which in recent years has traditionally favored aerodynamic efficiency. More so than the outcome, it is still challenging to understand the pace difference, particularly when compared to Max Verstappen. The rest of the field, including his teammate, had no chance against the Dutchman's incredible display of driving. He was able to run 0.8 of a second faster than Perez and 1.5 seconds faster than the rest of the field in the opening third of the race, putting him in the podium position. With these stats, it's obvious that the race has essentially become a stroll in the park. The world champion only needed to complete the first lap of Lake Holmes unharmed. After a few races without any significant effective modification, it appears that Red Bull's technological development has succeeded in meeting Max Verstappen's driving needs while paying considerably less attention to those of the Mexican driver. It appears like Max Verstappen accomplished in one go in Belgium what he was unable to do at the start of the season, namely, drive with less front wing without experiencing understeer. Additionally, the track structure, aerodynamic arrangement, and driver preferences were all completely in favor of Red Bull's characteristics. Ferrari, on the other hand, had absolutely poor pace. It would be unreasonable to deny that a few decisions may have gone somewhat astray. Ferrari experimented with a very low load wing to see whether it may be useful anywhere outside Monza. Would it have improved? Worse? We are unsure. The F175 car could have been lowered and made slightly less rigid in traction and out of corners if it had been exposed to less bouncing and had a bit more speed on the straight. Red Bull and Ferrari ultimately decided to use the same aerodynamic setup as at Baku, eliminating a variable from the analysis. Additionally, a large portion of the efficiency gap had been eliminated at the time. This feature demonstrates that the issue in Spa was mostly caused by the front axle's degradation, followed by the traction. There may be explanations for the decline seen. One is that Charles Leclerc was the fastest in Pohon during qualifying despite the car not producing adequate load on medium-high speeds.
Charles Leclerc for Ferrari to put on a set of soft tyres to go for the fastest lap of the race. The Ferrari of Charles Leclerc, they've gone for the fastest lap gamble here.
The other explanation, which is more likely, can be attributed to the mechanical arrangement and the applied pressures. As the car's weight steadily lowers, a very stiff setup that isn't supported by strong downforce can cause more sliding. This typically causes the tires to overheat and significantly accelerate degradation. The inconsistent pace, which alternates just decent laps with other slow laps, demonstrates that the window of use was not quite centered at any point during the race. This theory appears to be supported by Carlos Sainz's, at the very least, subdued speed at the beginning of the race. Monza was no different, despite the fact that Charles Leclerc's 8th best practice performance gave the Tifosi hope it was misleading. At the latest, after 10 laps, Ferrari realized the match was over. By that point, Verstappen had passed George Russell, Daniel Ricciardo and Pierre Gasly, cutting the distance to leader Charles Leclerc from 2.6 to 1.2 seconds. Matteo Binotto, the race director, acknowledged that the Red Bull was the fastest vehicle today.
The Red Bulls have been very strong the entire weekend. I think they have been very strong as well in Hungary on the high downforce package. So now it's at least a couple of races where Red Bull is simply faster. And
we would never have defeated him if we had competed against him using the same method. In the 12th round, Ferrari received a VSC phase by chance. When Iñaki Rueda's strategist intervened, they chose to run a 2-stop race. Red Bull received the order to do the contrary at that point. If Ferrari had kept Leclerc on the track, Verstappen would have been taken to the pits, according to team owner Christian Horner. Unfortunately, the VSC phase came to an end as Leclerc was stopping his Ferrari to change tyres. Thus, it only helps him partially. But 13 laps later, when Verstappen had to rewind his pit stop at race speed, it was sufficient to retake the lead. Binotto said, due to the fact that you can never predict what would happen later in the race, 2 stops weren't necessarily a mistake. With the second pit stop, Leclerc's pace was strong enough to keep him in front of third-place George Russell. What the fastest trainee's second stint showed was supported by the first. Leclerc was unable to match the speed that Verstappen had set. Within 7 laps, his gap of 10.1 seconds had been cut in half. On lap 33, when Leclerc picked up another set of soft, it almost appeared as like Ferrari was trying to prevent a direct collision with the advancing Red Bull.
Max Verstappen is about to retake the lead, and this time not because of any pit stop for the Ferrari, but because of the pace of the Red Bull. Here it comes, Max Verstappen into Le Comte chicane, leads.
The second halt, though, was purely necessary. On the medium tyres, Leclerc would have been unable to complete the race, and with 25.4 seconds left, Russell was still comfortably outside the pit stop window. Ferrari fans first thought the safety car at the end of the race was a wonderful coincidence of fate, but when it became evident that Bernd Maylander's Aston Martin would finish second, a piercing whistle resounded from the grandstand. Binotto made it clear that despite his displeasure with the way race control handled the safety car, Verstappen would have been difficult for us to defeat in a sprint to the finish. He had brand new, soft tyres, which we required. Red Bull has an advantage over other cars since the Hungarian Grand Prix.
Based on the speed of the Red Bulls, they have been very strong the entire weekend. I think they have been very strong as well in Hungary on the high downforce package.
Not Saturday, but in the competition. The tyres deteriorate quicker with us. We have to work hard to realize that they achieve better equilibrium than we do. The front tyres suffered this time. It's a mystery since it wasn't like that. The Ferrari was kinder to its tyres at the start of the year. Max Verstappen makes the car's weight a factor. We had the wrong kind of weight on board at the beginning of the year. Since losing weight, we have found a better equilibrium. Understeer has disappeared. However, Binotto does not believe it's the only reason. If Red Bull had put on a lot of weight in comparison to us, you would have to be able to tell on a qualifying lap, he said. Aerodynamics is a more likely theory among the Ferrari engineers. The working window and thus the tweaking room for vehicles have been lowered in the quest for additional downforce. Carlos Sainz made an attempt in free practice with an outdated underbody for this reason. Operations manager Jacques Leclerc said, "We don't want to go back there, but we want to better understand via the comparison what was different previously than now." Ferrari has had the fastest car so far this season, with more poles than Red Bull, and they should have more victories too, but they only have themselves to blame as they let the title slip away from their grasp with poor calls throughout the season, and Max Verstappen can run away with the title in Singapore if things go his way. With that, we've come to an end. See you next time. Goodbye.